Hi. Um, hey, how you doing? Yeah, I'm Autumn. It's good to meet you. Um, yeah, I've done this once before. You know, still a bit awkward, still a bit, you know, like, you don't really get to know each other properly when it's all a few words before actually meeting and all that. I mean, got to know you a little bit. It's like a little bit of a description, but, hmm? Oh, thanks. Alright, we appreciate it. Um, excuse you? What was that? Uh, wow. Forward? No, I'm not. Actually, I'm not mad about that. Really? Um, hey, wow. Do you wanna. Hi, hello, and welcome, or welcome back, I suppose. As you might be able to tell, this was filmed during the same day that I did some batch filming. You'll see, the intro to this, and then, well, the intro skit to this, and then this actual intro, clearly filmed on the same day as I did my mainstream review, because my time management isn't great, but I wanted to get this done early, mostly because I wanted to make sure that skit got done, because I've been putting it off because it's awkward to film. At least it's just me, but not the actual sitting down doing the date bit, that's a little bit awkward, but the other bit, we're doing blind date with the book again, if you couldn't tell from the intro, because I really enjoyed doing that last time, so I want to do it again. We have 3 books as a little treat. First up, we have this. We have adult fantasy fiction, which is described as which has the 3 descriptions of adventure, espionage, and treasure hunting. Obviously, that sounds like a lot of fun. If you've never seen Blind Date with the book before, if you didn't see my first video, first of all, go and check that out after you've watched this. Second of all, basically, as you can see, plain wrapping paper, or just, it is wrapped, you can't see the book inside. You have a genre description, 3 brief descriptions, and then you get to have a fun time. So this is Bernard Cornwell, Vagabond. Here we go. Who I am pretty sure does historical fiction. 1346. While King Edward III fights in France, England lies exposed to the threat of invasion. Thomas of Huckton, archer and great hero of Cressy, finds himself back in the north just as the Scots invade on behalf of their French allies. Thomas is determined to pursue his personal quest, to discover whether a relic he is searching for is the Holy Grail. But once again, it is the archers whose skills will be called upon and who will become the true heroes of the battle. Now, this does not... It's the espionage. I'm wondering where that fits in, because I would have called this historical fiction as well as fantasy. That isn't put on there. I am curious about this, because those are not necessarily descriptions I would use from this, just judging by the blurb, but let's see where that goes. Now means that I've got 2 historical books, because this is also historical fiction with the descriptions of themes of obsession set in 1850s London and haunting. It was the haunting that drew me in. The Doll Factory by Elizabeth McNeil. This looks absolutely stunning. London, 1850. On a crowded street, the doll maker, Iris Whittle, meets the artist, Louis or Lewis? Let's say Lewis. Meets the artist Lewis Frost. Lewis is a pre-Raphaelite painter who yearns for his work to be displayed in the Royal Academy, and he is desperate for Iris to be his model. Iris agrees on the condition that he teaches her to paint. Dreaming of freedom, Iris throws herself into this new life of art and love, unaware that she has caught the eye of a second man. Silas Reed is a curiosity collector, enchanted by the strange and beautiful. After seeing Iris at the site of the Great Exhibition, he finds he cannot forget her. As Iris's world expands, Silas's obsession grows. It is only a matter of time before they meet again. Ooh, this sounds delightful. This sounds right on my alley. It also doesn't necessarily sound like historical fiction in that way, that there's that kind of, just the way that the blurb is written, it doesn't feel like it's going to be written to sound like it was written in 1850, because that is, I feel, something that historical fiction often falls into, like this habit of doing that, going and trying to sound like the era, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Actually, sometimes it does work better. It often works better with Victorian than anything before that, honestly. Worse if it's more sort of 16th, 17th century stuff about, like, I don't know, like Shakespeare or anything like that, where it's just like clearly trying to have an air of the era, and I'm 50-50 on whether it works or not. Oh, next up we have simply labelled fiction. Dystopian AI characters exploring love and feelings, so probably science fiction. Oh, I think I own this book. This is Clara and the Sun by Kazuo Ishiguro. Yeah, I definitely... Yeah. I own this book. I didn't buy it that long ago either. I have mentioned on this channel that I bought that. It's very recent, within the past couple of months. But what I will probably do is, when I eventually pull that title out of the box of titles, I will simply go, I've already read this, we'll pick something else out. Because I'm still going to read it now. So, we have a little thing on the back, which isn't a review, and then I will read the actual blurb. Do you believe in the human heart? I don't mean simply the organ, obviously. I'm speaking in the poetic sense, the human heart. Do you think there is such a thing? Something that makes each of us special and individual? So I assume that is a quote from the book itself. The sun always has ways to reach us. From her place in the store, Clara, an artificial friend with outstanding observational qualities, watches carefully the behaviour of those who come in to browse, and of those who pass in the street outside. She remains hopeful a customer will soon choose her, but when the possibility emerges that her circumstances may change forever, Clara is warned not to invest too much in the promises of humans. In Clara and the Sun, Kazuo Ishiguro looks at our rapidly changing modern world through the eyes of an unforgettable narrator to explore a fundamental question: what does it mean to love? I mean, obviously that sounds wonderful. That's why I bought it in the first place. This just feels like the library calling me out with that last one. So yeah, 3 very different books, as we had last time. But I'm really looking forward to it. I will see you as and when I finish these books. And you will see me all in one go very shortly. So bye bye now. Hi, hello, and welcome, or welcome back, I suppose. I am doing something a little bit I don't have to do my intro. This is partway through a video. You penis. First up we have Clara and the Sun by Kazuo Ishiguro. Also, I'm trying something out for this review. I'm going to be doing something for each of these books, and then if we like it, by we I mostly mean me, then I'll probably do it in the future, even if not every video, because it kind of depends on how I'm feeling and how rushed everything's going to be. Because if I'm filming the morning that I'm editing, I'm not going to the library if I do a really lavish look like I'm doing today. So the plan is to do a makeup look based on the book I've been reading, and that can either be based on the cover, which is what I'm doing today. Can I see my head in that mirror? No, because my fan is in the way. Let's get down there. So what we're going to do is simply get the primer, which, by the way, if you watch my get ready with me, yeah, I found the lid. Does that palette have a mirror on it? Yes, thought it did. A nice big mirror. So Clara and the Sun. I don't know what I fully expected going in, but I think I expected something that would hurt me a lot more than this did. This was surprisingly more optimistic, I think would be the right word. It is still it's still something that hits your heart in a very particular way, but not in a way that is hurtful. Like, even in, I'm not going to do any spoilers here, but even in the final moments of the book, I was expecting to feel rough about it as I was reading, but I didn't. I think I had this expectation going in because even though I've never read it, and I plan on doing at some point, I'm possibly going to borrow it from the library or get it on BorrowBox. I've reserved it on BorrowBox, but apparently it's not going to be with me for another few months. But from everything I know, the book and the film that came from it, which I also do really want to watch because it is meant to be incredible, it's meant to be a fantastic adaptation. It is meant to be the sort of book that would absolutely tear you apart, and I thoroughly expected this to do the same, and it's not. This is remarkably optimistic for a book about artificial intelligence, because I think that every other AI piece of media that I have consumed is something that, I don't know, like, I'm not saying that a cautious look at AI is wrong, but I kind of adore the love in this, that, like, the thing that makes us human at the end of the day is love. And that's what this book is about. It is sort of exploring what it means to be human, what it means to feel emotions. And, you know, I think as most books about artificial intelligences, but it's so rare to see what does it mean to be human using AI that isn't humans are inherently bad and evil and will take advantage of somebody simpler than them, somebody, I don't know, simpler wasn't the right word, but somebody who's more naive than them, somebody who isn't as intelligent, be it emotionally or logically. And yet here we see that while there is sometimes a tendency to want to hurt others because we are hurt, it is not, at the end of the day, a human trait to be full of malice. The thing that saves the day here in multiple scenes is the fact that these people are doing everything they do because they love somebody, even when things don't go right. And like I said, I'm not saying it is perhaps incorrect to say that, yeah, there are people that would absolutely take advantage of AI in the worst ways possible. There are already people that are. But I think when we talk about human nature, so often it is human nature is to inherently be harmful and hurtful. Every story about AI is about how, you know, somebody wants to cause harm in some way to these beings who are simply here trying to learn and be the best versions of people they can be. And, you know, when we say, oh, I fear AI because of, you know, oh, they'll take over, AI is going to take over or something like that, that fear is kind of understandable, because we go, oh, they are going to see people, judge people. Are they going to understand the worst parts of us that we don't want them to understand? But I love that just throughout, Clara is just there trying to provide love at every single moment. She's just trying to do what she thinks is correct and right by Josie, even if there is a naivety to her, right? And I also like that even though there is this, hang on, because my eyes are about to go funny and I don't want to be talking while I'm trying to stretch my face. Even though there is that childlike naivety, nobody fully takes advantage of it in the way that I expected from an AI story. I went into this expecting cynicism, and I came out of it feeling like I had just witnessed true beauty. This is genuinely one of the most beautiful books I have ever read. Like I said, it's just so rare in general to read anything like this that is optimistic, and I need more, because I'm not saying there aren't problems with AI and the idea of computers taking roles of humans and understanding humans too much, but at the same time, I think what we sometimes end up doing is just never moving beyond being cynical of everything all of the time. And I don't know, because I'm not saying that you can't be cynical of this. I just, you can tell I'm I've literally just finished it. I started filming this just as I finished it, and it's just left me in a very particular mood. I am in awe of this, and I am 100% going to be reading it in the future. If you've ever read AI books where it is purely cynical, or you've read any book where it's focusing on, oh, what does it mean to be human, and what it means to be human is to be cruel and unfair, but I don't think that's true. We as people are not inherently cruel. I think one of the most basic instincts for human beings is love and care. You look at those acts where instinct takes over and somebody does something miraculous. Instinct taking over is so rarely a moment where somebody harms somebody else. It is a moment where somebody... It's going to be too thick. It's almost always a moment where somebody does something selfless, you know? And yes, I know that was a bit gross that I put that in my mouth to shape it down, but it's only going on my face, so... Yeah, like I said, I went into this book fully expecting, yes, a story about AI in which we have somebody being inherently cruel to an AI because this AI is just trying to learn what humanity is like, and maybe they're quite naive. And like I said, those stories are absolutely valid. I understand that, yes, some people will be awful. I understand that, yes, there is a fear of the darker side of innovation with this area. But in literary fiction, I just want more about how we as a species inherently are not cruel. Inherently we are not. And I know that seems so hard to believe sometimes. Trust me, I do get it, but... Oh, that's going to be a bastard to clean off. But it's generally only in, like, romance and chick lit and... I know we tend not to call it that anymore, but you know what I mean. It's generally only in that sort of field where we go, look, love saves the day. And we look at fiction like that often and we deride it because, no, that's not how humanity is. Well, get a grip. Humanity's full. Humanity is full of love. And I know I sound like I'm on repeat, but I sort of don't care. Sorry, I'm trying to do straight lines. It's not going to look perfect, but I kind of love it. I want, like I said, more literary fiction where this is a central theme. Kindness and love and hope. Things that are so often only in, you know, feel-good stories. that you pick up like for a little beach read over the summer kind of thing, and it's like, no, I want more books that are critically acclaimed in the way this is, that have that. I want some optimism sometimes. And especially because sometimes it feels like the world's not in a great place, that I want to read something that makes me feel optimistic. But is also, you know, I'm trying to phrase this well. When I say that this book is intelligent about it, that makes it perhaps sound like the other types of books that I've mentioned isn't, but this is the sort of book where critics go and correctly point out that, look, it's beautiful, it's optimistic, it's this, that and the other, but then you'd look at something like maybe something Lucy Diamond writes and people would deride that kind of fiction for being less highbrow. Also, this plays into the whole idea of genre fiction being something that people are weird about, but then you get a book like this and people are like, yes, it's amazing, it's incredible, as they should do. It is amazing, it's incredible. But these are generally also the sort of people that would like boo science fiction for no reason other than it's genre fiction. And I'm aware this is not perfect, but I had an idea and I'm actually kind of into it. So yeah, if you are like me and sometimes you want something that displays the beauty of the world and show somebody who is optimistic and full of love and hope, and the story isn't just set around them having that torn from them, then you should absolutely read this. Because, and I'm about to start crying and I can't because I've just spent a while on this, so much of what I read, where you've got somebody who's optimistic and maybe a little bit naive and so full of hope, the whole story is just centered around them being torn down. Because no, you have to be realistic, you can't be optimistic about anything. I just think that having optimism, love and hope from the first page to the last is something that I thoroughly appreciate, and I'm fully aware that in the future where I come back to this author and I read Never Let Me Go, I'm gonna have my heart broken into a million pieces. Like I said a million times, love, hope and optimism. That's what this book is about. And there's more than that, you know, it's dealing with grief and loss and class. There are a million things this book is dealing with, but for me, just the sheer love and optimism of this whole book really sat with me in the most beautiful way. All Clara wants is to learn about being human. She just wants to help Josie however she can, and she doesn't always know that she can't help, but at the end of the day, her hope is what gets the job done, I suppose. So yeah, I'll see you for the next review. Okay, multiple bits of housekeeping for the beginning of this part. One, yes, my hair is a bit different. Yes, you can see my scalp more clearly because my hair went super dark. I went through a million different things trying to get it to look good, and it didn't, so I just put a simple gloss colour over it and it's gone this colour. It looks okay. My goal is to wash this out so it goes a nice light purpley pastely kind of colour. Next up, if you notice that I still have makeup on my face, no you don't, because I definitely didn't just film for nearly an hour. Because I didn't I put a full face of makeup on. It didn't look great, but like it was still a full face, and I don't mean like a full face of makeup like foundation. I mean like I didn't do it particularly successfully, but I tried to recreate the, oh, it's because I've got this super shiny because of the light in here. There we go. I tried to recreate the knight on the front of the book. It didn't go perfectly, but like it was still fine, good enough. But no, I came in to check the footage afterwards, and you could see this part of my head, and that's it. So the final part of housekeeping is if there is a dip in quality. No, there isn't. It's just because I'm using my front-facing camera. Also, if you find that I'm not looking at the camera, it's also because I'm using a front-facing camera, because as we all know, when you've got your face next to the camera, we've all had like Zoom meetings, team meetings, all that sort of stuff, where rather than looking at our webcam, we look at our little face. So if I do that, that's what we're doing. I'm not gonna do what I just did, which is the full face. One, because it didn't look very good. Two, because that was exhausting to have to just wash that all. I don't want to completely ruin my skin. I cleansed it, toned it, exfoliated it, and I put a tiny amount of moisturiser on. I didn't want to put too much moisturiser on because my skin's already greasy as shit at the minute because it's fucking hot. So what I'm going to do is try to do a graphic eyeliner look, because if that doesn't go well, fuck it, it's just a bit of graphic eyeliner rather than the whole face. That just means I have to do a bit of wiping off. I'll do my usual makeup with the rest of it as well, because why not? So yeah, as you saw, oh, my eyes are going to be fucked by the end of this because it's gone dark since I filmed that. It was like, what time is it now? It's like 10:05. And it's been about 30 minutes since then, like since I finished filming, because I needed to give myself a break and put my phone on charge. But yeah, it's gone dark, so I've now got my light out, but I've got my ring light on. But yeah, so Vagabond by Bernard Cornwell, or Bernard, however you choose to say that. I thought it was alright. Certainly not the sort of thing I would usually read, as I have already kind of established on here before. I'm not a huge reader of historical fiction in general, and certainly not, oh, my skin is feeling the fact that I'm putting stuff on it. I am gonna look like shit tomorrow. Good job I'm not filming anything then, right? Good job I'm not having to film the final part of this video tomorrow on the same day that I'm editing it to go out. Good job I haven't read each book. Well, I read Clara and the Sun over like 2 or 3 days, and then this book and is it The Doll Factory? Reading those in one day, baby. Because I'm super clever and smart. So yeah, I am reading, filming review of, and editing video to go out for Thursday or tomorrow. I'm so good with time management. I had this week planned as well, and then I just didn't stick to it because it's May. Yeah. So let's go on to actual book review, shall we? Like I said, it was good. Certainly, I'm not going to be. You're not going to be suddenly seeing a lot more of this type of fiction on the channel. It's not that I mean, if I seen these books, which I have, because Bernard Cornwell is just like one of those authors. He kind of, for this kind of, from what I can tell, a lot of war type fiction, older war type fiction. So like this is 14th century. He writes a lot of that sort of thing in the way that Philippa Gregory has a chokehold on, like, I don't know if she exclusively does Tudor, but she does like royalty stuff. I think The White Queen, is it called? I believe that's hers. A few of her stuff's been adapted. But yeah, like this type of historical fiction, mostly based around battles and that kind of thing. Not necessarily based on real people, but playing off of real moments in history. Bernard Cornwell is like one of the guys in this kind of genre, right? So obviously somebody that I have... Where the fuck is that? Yo, I'm so tired. It's gonna show, and I'm very sorry about that. But yeah, so like if you're aware of this genre, you'll be aware of him, and he is not somebody that I'm suddenly going to be adding a lot of to my shelf, kind of thing. Which, fine. This, you know, this was entertaining enough, but I wasn't eager to keep reading more. You know, I didn't come to the end of it and go, oh my god, I need to read a million more books like this. And there are a few reasons for that. For a start, I'm not somebody who particularly likes big battle scenes, even done like this, which this was done well, pretty objectively. You know, you've got that right balance of a little bit of visceral moments, but not overly gratuitous. It's a little bit in some places, but I'll get to that in a minute. And you've got a really good idea of scale. So there are smaller, kind of cramped in the woods type battles, and there are sort of wider things going on later on. The scale's done really well, which I think is something that it's more noticeable a lot of the time in cinema than it is in books, where you've got a real problem with scale, where they've got this really grand open space, and then you've got two tiny little groups running towards each other. You've not got that sort of thing going on here. I will say there is a little bit of... My only issue with the violence here is, while, as far as I can recall, there isn't one overly... There aren't any overly descriptive sexually violent scenes, which is a real problem in this genre on the whole, and the similar sort of this genre but make it fantasy, that kind of traditional high fantasy, but in the kind of Game of Thrones and Witcher kind of a bit more. When I say adult, I don't mean that something like Lord of the Rings is for children. I just mean adult in that way that it has particular types of violence, gore, that kind of thing, right? You could read Lord of the Rings as a child, technically, right? Contents-wise, as far as I'm aware, there isn't anything in Lord of the Rings, right? I've never been able to read the full books. This is going to get me in trouble. I really enjoyed The Hobbit as a child. Did not like Lord of the Rings, not one bit. For the same sort of reasons that I don't like high fantasy that much, and I don't like this sort of historical fiction that much. For me, it always just feels like it's dragging a little bit. So what I was saying with the certain types of violence in this is that, you know, with things like Game of Thrones, and I know the books are just as bad for this as the TV show was, is that sexual violence is used as like character building kind of thing, and that's not that uncommon. And in historical fiction, I mean, you get it in fantasy fiction as well. Well, it's something that happens. Like, yeah, but you don't know how to use this particular act, you know. If you can write something else, then do, kind of thing, for the most part, is how I've seen a lot of people advise writing about this sort of thing. And it's used in a way that feels very gratuitous, and there's visceral descriptions or depictions of it, and you don't get that in this. But put the lid back on you, didn't know you were still there. In this, you've got moments, you'll be in the middle of a battle scene and you'll be getting some descriptions of what's going on around them, and most of it makes sense. It'll be like a quick description of somebody being thrown off their horse, somebody being stabbed, hit with an arrow, that kind of thing, and there's like just enough visceral violence for it to work but not feel gratuitous. But then you also just get these offhanded comments where it's like, oh, and there's a woman screaming because she's being raped, right? And it just feels unnecessary to what you're building. You can say that there are women screaming. You can even say, like, just leave a bit to the imagination sometimes, I think. Like, there's a woman being dragged off somewhere. She knows what's going to happen to her, that kind of thing. It's like, because, yes, obviously there's plenty of record to say that these men are going to do horrendous shit to women, right? But just throwing it away like that doesn't feel tasteful. What I'm going to try and do with my liner, by the way, because I don't think I mentioned that, is I'm going to attempt to do a bow on one side and an arrow on the other. I don't know which way around I'm going to do it, but because our main character is an English archer, so I think that'll be a fun little thing to do. I will say, I thought this was going to be way more focused on the Holy Grail itself. Hang on. There we go. Now, it's not that it isn't one of the main focuses, but I thought that it was going to be more of a doomed quest for the Holy Grail type narrative. But it's not. Now, I'm kind of aware that in pop culture, a quest for the Holy Grail is now forever going to be a little bit difficult, given, you know, Monty Python. Especially, maybe it's just because, you know, being British and all that, I'm aware that Monty Python is not just, you know, big in Britain, but there's a very particular way they've taken over British culture, right? And I think that... Oh, that's kind of adorable. Oh. You know, I understand that it can be a bit difficult to do that kind of quest narrative, and I think that Bernard Cornwell is British. I'm not sure. At the very least, most of the history that he writes about is British, so I would assume so. But yeah. Sorry, I went really quiet there, I'm aware of that. But, you know, it just didn't feature in quite the way that I thought it would. But what I did enjoy in terms of the Holy Grail was the way it played into relics, because obviously the Holy Grail itself is a relic, and I don't know if I know how to explain relics. If it makes me sound really patronising, but if people don't know what a relic is, but hang on. There we go. Relics are basically bits of saints, bits of their clothes, their burial gowns, their bones, or it's bits of the cross. But like the most sought after relic is the Holy Grail, which is the cup that Jesus poured from and drank from when he was at the Last Supper. You know, he drank the wine from that and poured the wine from that. Which is obviously one of the most important moments, right? Because that's where he's basically making it clear that he knows his fate. I will be very honest with you, I went to a C of E primary school, but I have never been particularly religious, but I know enough to get along, right? But yeah, the way they talk about relics in this, because obviously for a start, most of these relics are bollocks. You know, they'll sit and say, oh yeah, this is Mary Magdalene's left shin bone. But like, it's just some fucker's shin bone that they found, and they make it holy in order to make money, right? Because that's there was a lot of that going on. I'm gonna say little else. I'm gonna say there was a lot of that going on, where you'd have churches basically going and taking money and making that the most important thing to them, rather than helping people out, being a place of worship and sanctuary and all that good stuff. And in not just in historical fiction, but just in general, there's a kind of ease in laughing at people. It sort of feels easy to say, well, obviously it's not that. I believe that relics are still very much a part of certain parts of Christianity. I don't know if it's more of, I think it's a Catholic thing. But I'm not sure about that. I don't know if it's just more generally a Christian thing. But we tend to laugh at people in the past for believing that this thing. But there was a particular passage that I really liked, and I can't remember where it is. I should have marked it down. They're talking about whether or not they really believe in it. And one of them goes, well, I wasn't sure at first, but my wife, she definitely believes in it, and that was enough for me to realise that the power these things really hold are in the fact that we believe in them. So yes, logically, this bit of cloth has probably never had anything to do with St. Cuthbert, but I know in my heart that God's power is in this, and if I believe that, then it's true, because faith at the end of the day is what makes God's power so great, and that kind of thing, right? Like I said, I can't remember the exact passage, and I'm not particularly pious, so I probably can't phrase it as eloquently, but I thought that was quite nice, because like I said, it can often seem easy to mock people historically, or from history rather, because of them seeming more simple, if that's the right word. Hang on. But in this, there isn't that, and even with some of the medicines and stuff, I mean, there's some possible stuff with Jewish people, which I can't work out is iffy, and I don't think it's intentional. If it is, I can't work out if it is. A lot of it is definitely just, no, people back then were weird about Jewish people. Especially given that, like, one of these people is part of the Papal Inquisition, basically the same kind of thing as the Spanish Inquisition. But yeah, the whole not dividing people just because it's earlier in history. No, that's not what I was talking about. Sorry, my brain is a bit shut off. Yeah, so obviously, yeah, people were weird about Jewish people historically, still fucking are, but there's just I'm not the right person to talk about it, being somebody who is not Jewish, but I just wondered with some of the ways they're being talked about, is it just, yes, this is historically accurate, or is it just a bit weird? Sometimes I maybe think I'm just overthinking it. In this case, I do think that I possibly am. Do I gloss this? No, this is cute enough. I would not wear this. That's a lie. I was about to say I would not wear this out. That's a straight lie. I absolutely would. This is cute as shit. I would probably, I need to remember when I do graphic liner to not do this, because I do it with graphic liner all the time, because this side is fine because it doesn't move, because it just comes up here, but I do this with graphic liner so often. Yeah, if you're into historical fiction of this kind, you're probably already reading this author, but if you're maybe somebody who really likes high fantasy but wants something that isn't that, you know what I mean, like you like that style but you don't want the fantasy elements, this would probably be for you. I don't know how to recommend this because it's not something that as much as I thought it was entertaining enough, definitely not something that I would be reading again. If it wasn't for me doing it for review purposes, not for review purposes, but for the purposes of this like video gimmick, I absolutely wouldn't have picked this book up. If anybody has some good Quest for the Holy Grail type stories that aren't just silly, because like I said, I understand how hard that might be, yeah, let me know, because I do like, and I don't just mean like Quest for the Holy Grail, but like those kind of Quest for an Item or like Fountain of Youth, those kind of stories, I do find them really interesting, especially the kind of, yeah, this isn't actually a thing, and you get so far and you're with them all the way and it feels so real, and then you find out it's not at the end, but there's something else going on or something like that. I love stories like that. They're quite common in science fiction and fantasy. Kind of makes sense really, especially that like faux historical fantasy, playing with myths and legends and that kind of thing. The BBC's Merlin, that kind of thing, obviously, you know, the myth of Arthur Pendragon and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, I was about to do my usual wrap up there. Like I said, I'm quite tired, but this looks a lot better than the last one did, and will be much easier to clean off. I would 100% wear this. Like I said, I need to either that or I can just pretend I've got Botox and just hold my face like this, just like, I have a feeling I know what I'm going to be doing for the next one. If the title is anything to go by, it being Doll Factory, I'll probably be doing a doll makeup. Probably kind of something very simple. Mostly because I don't want to have to wash my face off like I did today if anything goes wrong with filming. But I'll see you then. I'll see you in a couple of seconds for you. It'll be probably about 24 hours for me. Actually, no, I hope it's not 24 hours, because then I'm going to be like filming up until 1 AM or something. Hello, quick visit from me just after filming, as you can tell. I just wanted to give you some good things, and basically while I was having my the first round of filming this section breakdown, I saw a little cat outside and he was very cute, so I'm gonna add the little pictures of the cat in here because I think that's nice. I'm now going to wash my face and probably have a shower because it's gross and hot, and then I'm gonna go to bed because I need some sleep. Fuck me, I need some sleep. Christ alive. Bye bye. The final part of this video, I am filming it at 11:15 at night. I maybe finished my book 10 minutes ago. I was trying to set up my tripod and it broke. The light part is still working, but the top part where the light and the actual bit that holds my phone became separated from the bottom part, and not the bit that screws in, because why would it be? So hopefully I can replace that soon. If not, we'll have to be at this slightly low, awkward angle. I don't like it because I don't like looking down at the camera. I like it to be at an eye level. So yeah, I'm having a great time. When I filmed Clara and the Sun, I was like, yeah, this would be a great idea. Do 3 proper videos rather than a quick fire review thing. That would be a great idea. But no, it's gone great. I also can't find the charger for my in-ear headphones. There's just another little update. But where did I put the book? Right, what we're doing today is The Doll Factory by Elizabeth MacNeil. I was originally thinking of doing a doll look for this, but as I went through the book, it's got very little to do with dolls. It probably makes sense if I reread the blurb before I spoke about that, but I was still mostly thinking about yesterday's book when I was filming yesterday's video. I need to do my time management better next week, but with one of the main themes, or at least, yeah, motifs, I suppose, of the book being that it is centered around, you can see my fan, and it's in the way. I don't want to push anything off, but we can deal with it. I am shiny as hell. I look like a glazed donut because I am a sweaty boy. But yeah, like I said, because a lot of this is based on around the Pre-Raphaelite Brotherhood, I'm going to be a non-ginger recreation of one of the muses, the most notable being Elizabeth Siddal, I'm not actually sure, who Dante Rossetti had as his wife and muse. I believe she is also the model for Ophelia. I can't remember who that's by, but that's not a Rossetti, but another member of the Pre-Raphaelite Brotherhood. It mentions that painting in the book. I just can't remember because me and names. So I have a little list here of things I need to do, and like I said, a non-ginger Pre-Raphaelite muse, because most, if not all of them, were ginge. So let's get on with the actual book review. I thoroughly enjoyed this. I maybe would put this as, I mean, you know, spoiler alert, but I would maybe put this as a contender of one of my favourites that I've read so far. I don't think that would be unfair to say. This looks really bright, and it's really hard to make it not look bright because my skin is... I should have powdered beforehand, maybe. I might do that now. bunch of reasons why this is one of my favourite books of the year. Partly because it is focusing on by the way, this isn't gross. So yesterday when I was talking about how I had to refilm a whole video, because it was filming like this much of my head, the look that I'd done featured a lot of silver and grey, which is now casting on my face and making it look like I have a moustache. Not very accurate of me, but didn't have time to clean my brushes. Where was I? Yeah, so Pre-Raphaelite, a collection of movement of art which I've always found deeply beautiful, and a collection of people who are a little bit mad. Dante Rossetti in particular, if you're curious about the Pre-Raphaelites and you're looking for your sort of the one that you'd never enjoy to meet in real life, but god, they're interesting to read about as a historical figure, Dante Rossetti is that person. One of the, she's mentioned by once, I think, by name in the book, his sister being Christina Rossetti, most notably wrote Goblin Market, one of my favourite poets of all time. But he was a bit of a mad person with a huge collection of strange wild animals. Like, I believe he had zebras. I don't know if Frost, Louis Frost, who is one of our leads in this, if he actually had this animal, or if it's just referencing the fact that Rossetti had so many mad animals that he's got a pet wombat. I remember I had a was it 19th century literature, or it might have been Victorian. No, because I think we did romantic stuff in that, and romantic is a bit pre-Victorian as well, so yeah, that'll be 19th century literature. I wasn't very good in that class, I'll be honest, mostly because I kept forgetting to go, which is not going to help, but basically I'm just trying to blot the shit out of my upper lip because it is so shiny. Not that I'm not going to add a bit of shine back into my face later, but I don't want to add too much. But that's not a review of the book. Now we're just talking about... But yeah, I was sorry, I'm too distracted. Yeah, in that class, one of the things that I remember most is learning about Dante Rossetti, because I find him fascinating. Somebody who I didn't know much about, but knew of his art when I didn't know anything about him. I think I might have heard of Christina Rossetti at this point, but the first time I saw a Rossetti in real life, I cried. And I don't know the name of the painting, but you've got the woman in the centre, presumably Siddle, his wife and muse in the centre, and it's just, I'll find the picture that I'm thinking of and I'll put it here. And yeah, note that I cried the first time I saw that, and that was before I knew anything about him, and now I think he's a wonderfully eccentric person, but yeah, inevitably an arsehole, just because people who are like that are, I'm distinctly thinking that he was sort of the, the Byron of the group, meaning that, yes, he's interesting, but if you knew him, you'd want to clock him one. But let's get to the book. So, another reason, other than the, that is too dark, we're going to have to soften you. But we'll get onto that later. one of the reasons that I do like this book is that we've got women, like time appropriate women with a certain kind of, that is the most British brown I've ever seen. We need to soften that right up. Like time appropriate women who, like, I don't want to say women with agency, because women with agency isn't necessarily something that's easy to, I don't know if that's the right phrase. I'm going to use that phrase, but I hope you know what I mean. Just like with a bit of strength and the wits about them. Because oftentimes people will continue to write it the way you would write, I don't want to say strong women, because that is such a overused thing at this point. Like, oh yeah, she's such a strong woman, because we can't think of something else to call her. That's not the right colour. But, you know, because when I say time appropriate, so there's all this stuff, but you've got our lead character and she wants more for herself. You can see all the powder floating around. Isn't that cute? It looks like it's snowing. So yeah, so she's like trying to have something more for herself, but at the same time she's very aware of the society that she lives in. So, you know, there's moments where she's surrounded by all her male friends and they're all like, yeah, let's go to a tavern and just have a drink to celebrate. And she's like, mate, if I go to a tavern, like, just with a couple of guys, none of us are married, you're not going to look like my chaperones. I'm going to look like a strumpet. Which is exactly, you know, what society would say she is. You know, and there's all sorts of stuff like that where the guys around her are distinctly used to, it's very clear that they're all used to just being around other men, so they don't think about her. That's the wrong colour. Like, and it's not intentional either. And I like that because it feels time appropriate. Because like I said, a lot of the time it's like you would write these strong women, but they sort of just feel like you would write a strong woman now. And yes, I'm still going to use the word strong just because I can't think of the right word, because I swear like somebody with agency isn't what I'm thinking of. I love the way she's written, and you know, she's aspirational, but she's got this awareness of why what she wants might not work for her. So when she's originally going to become considering becoming a model for Frost, she's like, this could never work because my entire family and my current boss is going to think that I've become a lady of the night kind of thing. Which you can understand why they would have that assumption. Not necessarily the most agreeable thought, but yeah. But I think this book's shining character, and I do not mean that I like this character, just the way he is written, is Silas, because he's genuinely terrifying, because he's one of those characters who is generally, to the people around him, kind of just an unsuspecting guy, but it's really clear for the reader. I get that deep unease, you know, when he first meets Iris, our protagonist. Oh, there's something deeply inside, because you know immediately that he's gonna go a little bit obsessive over her because she perfectly fits the description over some of somebody who he's had this like obsession over for years, like most of his life. So it's just like, oh no, she's in trouble. I'm not putting on a primer for my eyes today because I need it to be really blown out and soft without much colour payoff. And yes, I do have a mirror here, but I don't like to cover my face. Yeah, he's like, I mean, there's that sort of thing where you're like, at first, you're sort of wanting to go, no, maybe he could just be in a slightly unusual line of work. Not everybody who is a taxidermist is an absolute freak. However, this man is both a taxidermist and an absolute freak, to put it lightly. You know, and there's just, it's throughout where he's literally created this version of Iris that cannot and will not ever exist. And it's sort of like, have any of you ever either watched videos about the film, I believe it's either just called 365 or 365 Days? Yeah, you know how he's like, yeah, I've kidnapped you and now you're gonna fall in love with me, and that's meant to be romantic. This is more like what that would actually be like, which is an obsessive fucking weirdo who like, well, yeah, obsesses over someone to the point of violence. I think the most deeply unsettling point is, well, obviously it's deeply unsettling when he you know, is being a violent bastard, but there's a particular feeling where you're, oh my god, my lip is so sweaty, gross, where you're becoming aware of, oh, he's about to do something really insane, right? And I think that for me, the moment where it hit me where things are about to take a real turn was when he went after the child. Because he barely touches him. Like, he doesn't viciously attack him in a way that we're aware at this point he easily could do. But there's an air of a threat that is kind of enough. You know, I mean, he does, I believe he hits him once in the face and he's like grabbed at his arms, which also incredibly sad is that moment, to do with Albie's teeth as well, or tooth I suppose. And that really upset me, because when he's like, he spits up and he's still got his tooth and he's just got his tooth in his hand, it's like, no, that's a baby boy. And I wanted to protect him so much. The really well written sort of rapscallion was the word that came into my head. I couldn't tell you why. I also don't know where my mascara is. Yeah, also the romance element in this, oh my god, just absolutely stunning. the moment by the lake, because sometimes I think and I don't just mean this in terms of genre, and I mean this with the lowercase r, in romantic stories, the first moment where something is about to happen but it doesn't is sometimes more impactful than when the moment happens, because it just feels like the first time when you have it feels like it's about to happen then it doesn't, is always just this like holding of tension, and then you're left wondering, okay, when are they gonna release the tension? And it's done at the right time with this later on, when they finally, admit everything to each other and all that nonsense. But just, the moment by the lake. This is not, by the way, Silas and Iris. There is no trying to make that romantic. The only person who thinks there is a romance going on between those two is Silas, and it is very clear that a little trip to Bedlam would not go amiss for him. But yeah, the romance is something that I just, it sits in my little baby heart and makes me very, very happy. Great use of the setting as well. Busy Victorian London streets. I love the build up to the Great Exhibition. If you like actual Victorian books, you will like this, and if you like historical fiction set in Victorian England, then you will probably really enjoy this as well. I just thought it was phenomenal. Right, so this time's blind date with a book. Well, in terms of the dates themselves, me sitting here and talking, I like to consider these the dates rather than the sitting down with the books themselves. Well, the actual dates didn't go particularly well, but our meeting the book, getting to know them. This is like reading the book's profile, and then our little review is the date themselves. The dates have been going terribly wrong. The first date went really well. Clara and the sun, everything performed perfectly for me. After that, Vagabond, I had issues with technology, zooming that much of my head, thank you, and I had an awful makeup job afterwards. I mean, pros and cons, I suppose. And then with this one, my tripod's broken, so yay. But the books themselves, no, I kid. The dates here are with the books themselves, and all of them went pretty well. The only one that I would say was an unsuccessful date was the one I took a bit of a what is that on? Oh, it's just a bit of fluff. There was something on my window and I thought it was a bug and I freaked out. Yeah, the only one that I would say would possibly be an unsuccessful date would be Vagabond. If we think of dates here, Clara and the sun was the ideal first date, but set the bar really high for everything else. Vagabond was I took a punt on somebody because they seemed like they might be interesting, but turns out they're not for me. And the third date was, I wasn't 100% sure about them. They seemed like they might be I wasn't sure about them. They seemed like they might be my kind of thing, but then it turns out they're more than just my kind of thing. They're absolutely my type. So, all in all, 2 out of 3 ain't bad, in the words of the late great Meat Loaf. Is that 2 out of 3 ain't bad? Is that Meat Loaf? I'm so tired. I have to edit after this. But yeah, all in all, successful dates. I'll probably do this again at some point, maybe with a bit more time management skills. I think next week I'm doing some library books. I've left all of the library books downstairs, so you can just have a surprise next week. I'm not editing it in. I might edit it in when I go downstairs to, well, edit, and I'll just film that with the books, but quite frankly, probably not. So I hope you have a wonderful day, a wonderful night, a wonderful whenever you are watching this. I hope you plan your time better than I ever could. And I pray that you have a better night's sleep than I'm about to have. Take care of yourselves. Right.